Hey guys, this is Jinx again with another guide. This time we will be venturing into the Blackrook Hold. The Blackrook Hold is a dungeon located in Valshara on the Broken Isles. It was carved out of the mountain to be an assailable fortress. This elven structure served as a bulwark against the Legion during the War of the Ancients until a shadow fell upon it. It was also the ancestral home of Lord Cortalos Ravencrest, the one-time mentor of Illidan himself. But since the latest Legion attacks and the fact that Gul'dan stole the corpse of Illidan Stormrage from the Vault of Wardens and performed a ritual to separate his soul from his body, this fortress became home for demons and restless dead. The ritual Gul'dan performed released such a powerful energy that the ghosts of the Hold's forces have been risen. From the lowliest soldier to Desdel, Stareye and even Lord Ravencrest himself are now trying to protect the secrets within the tower. A couple of trash pulls, you will end up in front of the first boss of this dungeon, the Amalgam of Souls. When Gul'dan conducted the ritual of Illidan, the immense soul energy that was released brought the souls of the Ravencrest back to their ancestral home. You could say Gul'dan brought the clan back together, but in the worst possible way. The souls merge in this scythe-wielding raven-looking monstrosity that you have to kill. This four-headed bird does a couple of interesting things. Reap Soul is a frontal cone ability that deals quite a huge amount of damage and puts a debuff on the player that increases damage taking by 20% for 30 seconds. It is a big purple poop on the ground, so be sure to avoid it. Next, he casts a spell called Swirling Scythe, where he throws a scythe at a random player that does damage and knocks back everyone it comes in contact with. The last ability is in normal difficulty is Soul Echoes. This is a pretty interesting one. Amalgam fragments a player's soul, causing them to leave soul fragments behind them. The fragments explode after a brief period of time, dealing damage to players. If you are affected by this ability, be sure to run away from the group so you won't damage everyone while you hysterically run around like a headless chicken. In heroic difficulty, Amalgam will also cast Call Souls, where he summons souls to his aid. Kill as much souls as you can because each of them increase the damage of the next spell called Soul Burst by 50%. Soul Burst will release the souls and damage all players. The less souls he consumes, the lower the damage. After this boss you will head up the tower facing some spiders and other trash mobs. Be careful with the rook spiderlings because they cast a debuff that stacks and deals damage every 2 seconds for 16 seconds. At 20 stacks that can hurt a bit. When you clear mobs in front of the next boss, you will then run up and face her in person. Her name is Lisanna Ravencrest. She is the daughter of Lord Ravencrest that was imprisoned for millennia in the Vault of the Wardens shortly after the War of the Ancients. But after Mayev's Shadow Song released the Demon Hunters, she found herself free and returned to her ancestral home. She has sacrificed everything, as all demon hunters did, including her soul to defend what she could not during the War of the Ancients. Alesana does a couple of things. The most important spell for tanks is called Vengeful Shear. It does hefty amount of damage and applies a debuff that increases the damage taken by 15% for 25 seconds if the tank has no active mitigation spell on him. This effect stacks, so be sure to time your spells right. Next, she does a Dark Rush where she dashes between players, dealing damage and leaving blazing trail in her path that damages enemies every 2 seconds. If you are targeted by this spell, just stay close to others so Lisanna doesn't make too much of a mess. Brutal Glaive is a spell where she hurls her glaive at someone, dealing damage and bouncing to other players. In this case, spread across the area so the glaive won't bounce. After a while, Lisanna enters a phase 2 where she will cast Eye Beams. These beams will follow a player, leaving behind patches of fell blazed ground. It does damage, so be sure to run away from party to avoid any unnecessary damage. Lisanna will also summon adds, so tanks be sure to pick up aggro. After you defeat Lisanna, you will head upstairs. There will be rocks falling from down the stairs, so Indiana Jones them motherfuckers and continue until you end up in front of Smash Spite the Hateful. A brutal, imposing Morg Lieutenant Smash Spite the Hateful led the Legion's invasion of Blackrook Hold and commanded defense of the keep from the air via his colony of Fellbats. And might I say, those Fellbats need a new diet or Fellbat food or something, because they are vomiting everywhere. Smash Spite is a pretty straightforward fight. The most notable spell he casts is Brutal Haymaker. Basically, throughout the fight, Smash Spite builds up rage, and when the bar is full, he will unleash a Brutal Haymaker at the tank, so be sure to save your damage mitigation spells for this punch. Also, the more damage he does to the tank, the faster the bar fills, so keep that in mind. He also casts Earthshaking Stomp, which knocks nearby players away from him. Next, he calls down a Fellbat that after a brief period will vomit in a straight line. Similar to real life, you don't want to stand in a puddle of vomit. In heroic difficulty, he also does Hateful Charge. First, he hatefully gazes at a player. Then, when he finishes his gazing, he will charge in the direction of the affected players. Other players can intercept the charge by standing between Smash Spite and his target. After you kill this monstrosity, you will head upstairs a little bit, kill a bunch of mobs, and soon appear in front of two elves chatting, Letosius and Lord Cortalos Ravencrest. Cortalos Ravencrest, Lord of the Blackrook Hold, was the commander of the Kaldorei resistance during the War of the Ancients until he was assassinated by Varo X under the orders of Queen Azshara. Millennia later, Gul'dan's foul soul magic has awoken Ravencrest's soul and those of his ancestors. From their eternal repose, the Legion, seeking revenge, gleefully forced his soul into his body and mesmerized him, forcing him to eternally relive relive the horrors of the War of the Ancients. At first you will fight Lord Ravencrest while his advisor, Latosius, teleports around and attacks with dark magic. Once Ravencrest reaches 20% health, Latosius will reveal his true form as the Dreadlord let's call him Dandelion. Ravencrest, his vision no longer clouded, now calls on the souls of his ancestors to empower the party. Ravencrest casts two spells. One of them is Unerring Shear, which does huge amount of damage to the tank and also applies bleed. Second spell is called Whirling Blade, and it's a whirling blade that knocks players away and deals damage. In the second phase, Dreadlord Dandelion will show up. This dude does a couple of things. Cloud of Hypnosis, where he creates a cloud of hypnotic farts on the ground and anyone who smells them falls asleep immediately. Keep out of it. Dreadlord's Guile, where he splits his personality into a couple of dudes. They circle the place and every one of them casts Dark Obliteration, a line spell which you must avoid because it usually means insta-death for players that get hit by it. In heroic difficulty, Dandelion casts Stinging Swarm. He envelops a target in a swarm of stinging insects, inflicting damage every second. It has a chance of stunning you for 0.5 seconds unless you kill those insects, so be sure to bring a bug spray. After the fight, the Shadow of Ravencrest will thank you for lifting the curse from his people and that he is glad that heroes who defend this world still live. But I was there just for the loot, man.